Before you judge me, hear me. Because this story doesn't begin in a bar, a hotel room, or a late-night message. It begins in a church pew, with hands folded, with eyes closed, with prayers whispered to God. I never thought betrayal would begin in a holy place, not beneath stained glass windows, not during worship songs meant to heal, not in a room built for faith, forgiveness, and truth. But that's exactly where it happened. Church was supposed to be safe. It was where I went to feel close to God, to quiet the chaos in my life, to believe again when everything felt heavy. I walked through those doors carrying faith, and slowly walked out carrying something far more dangerous. Because somewhere between the sermons and the altar calls, I fell for someone I never should have. It didn't start the way people warn you it will. There were no alarms, no dramatic moment where I crossed a clear line. It started quietly, a smile that lingered too long, a conversation after service that felt deeper than it should have, a shared prayer that crossed from spiritual into personal. We talked about faith, about pain, about struggles we didn't trust anyone else with. And I told myself it was harmless because it was happening in church, because God was involved, because we were just connecting. That was the lie. Because connection without boundaries is still dangerous, and intimacy doesn't need physical touch to cause destruction. What began as fellowship slowly became attachment. Messages replaced silence, shared secrets replaced accountability. And before I fully realized it, my heart had gone somewhere my values never gave permission to enter. I started noticing the shift. I looked for them before I focused on worship. I listened for their voice more than the sermon. Prayer became complicated, songs felt heavier, and then came the shame. Not all at once, but slowly, relentlessly. Shame when I hid conversations, shame when I justified closeness, shame when I knew the scriptures and still chose comfort over conviction. I told myself it wasn't betrayal, because nothing physical had happened. But betrayal doesn't always begin with touch. Sometimes it begins with secrecy. Sometimes it grows through emotional dependence. Sometimes it survives because we refuse to call it what it is. I was living two lives, one with raised hands and closed eyes, and another with lowered standards and quiet compromise. Every prayer felt divided. Every worship moment felt conflicted. I wasn't just hiding from others, I was hiding from myself. And that's when I realized the deepest betrayal wasn't toward another person. It was toward my faith, toward my integrity, toward the God I claimed to trust. There was no dramatic ending, just distance, awkward silence, and the slow collapse of something that never should have been built. What remained was regret, confusion, and a spiritual emptiness I didn't know how to explain. I questioned whether I belonged in church at all. I questioned my worth. I questioned whether God was disappointed in me. But here's the truth I learned the hard way. God was never surprised by my failure, and He didn't abandon me because of it. Church is sacred, but it's filled with human beings. And humans are flawed, emotional, and vulnerable. Holy spaces don't erase temptation. They simply make the consequences heavier when wisdom is ignored. Falling doesn't mean your faith is fake. It means you're human. Healing didn't come instantly. It came through honesty, through repentance, through rebuilding boundaries I should have protected from the start, through learning that closeness without clarity always leads to pain. If you're listening to this and something feels familiar, if you're standing on that quiet edge right now, please hear this. Stop before secrecy becomes damage. Stop before prayer becomes justification. Stop before you lose more than you think you will. You are not evil. You are not beyond grace, but you are responsible. Faith isn't proven by perfection. It's proven by the courage to turn back. I fell for someone at church, and it cost me more than I ever expected. But it also taught me this: grace is real, restoration is possible, and God doesn't just meet us at the altar, He meets us in the aftermath of our mistakes.